Hey there, this is Dave Gardner, and I'm super excited to be getting into the next video with you right now. In this video, we're going to talk about the add follow-up function. And so when you first go in and click on your messages, you're going to see what existing follow-ups you have. In the beginning, there's not going to be any. So you want to go in there and generate a series of follow-ups, at least one. Okay, the key thing is have at least one in there so people are going to get some information, even if you're just introducing yourself. And so what you want to do is make sure you're in the correct campaign. So over here, you're going to choose the correct campaign. Now, in the beginning, there's only one. There may be some more added over time. And so you want to make sure you're adding the follow-ups in the right campaign. And so I'm going to click on Add Follow-up. And this is where the fun begins, because we really get to introduce ourselves and we get to talk about things, and or we get to remind them of what they just opted into, or again, give them a link to where they just, maybe saw an offer, maybe they have a sale, maybe it's a training. Okay, this is where you're going to put all of your key things. Now, one of the crucial things to do in the beginning, if it's your first message, so notice we started, it was blank over here in the beginning of the video in the follow-up. Your first message, we always want to change the send after to 0. And what that means is that at 0 time after they opt in, will they get their first email broadcast sent to them, the automated follow-ups. And so that means as soon as they opt in, it's going to, boom, send them a message to their inbox. And so every other day after this, I prefer to have every other message sent as a 1. Okay, so you can just leave that as 1. That means that every day they will get a message. If you change it to 2 or 3, that means that instead of 2 days, or excuse me, instead of the next day, it would take 2 days and for them to get the next message. So let's say they opted in on a Saturday and the first message was set as a 0, so they got the email on Saturday, but then you had a 1 for the next one, then obviously they get one on Sunday. But if the next number is set till 2, they don't get anything on Monday, they get it on Tuesday. And then if the next email is set at 3, they don't get an email on Wednesday or Thursday, but they get it Friday. And so that staggering can work in some situations, but in others, you want to make sure that you're having contact with that person a lot. And so just to show you how it works and go through a couple emails, just to give you like a template, I'm not going to go in depth, but just to show you some of the power of things that you can actually use and do with this cool software. And so let's just say, so this is one that's going on. And so maybe your first message is, welcome to the team. Your free account is ready. Something like that, because if they just opted into an offer to test out the free account, that's just what you want to do. And so when we go in there, this is a lot and very similar to, like Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word. You have a lot of capabilities of, making things bold and italic and underline. You can have a strike through. How am I going to line it? Left, right, center? Am I going to justify and spread it out? Do I want it, have paragraph? Do I want to have large heading, soft? All these, different types of fonts you can choose in there. I can change the size of the text. I can do the formatting, inline blocks, alignment. Okay, there's a lot that you can do here, and you can cut it, you can copy, paste, find and replace key things. You can change your text color. You can change the background color of your text, put things in quotes, insert dates and times. You do your bullets, indents, adding an image, which is always great, so people get to know you. And then we can hyperlink. Now, in a previous video, we talked about clicks. When someone opens your email, you're going to get a number about that, but then you're also going to see clicks, and that's going to be if you use this function to create a hyperlink, then the system will register if someone actually came in and clicked it. And then you have places for special characters, and then also if you're familiar with HTML, you can do the source code as well. So first thing I always like to do is go to the insert fields, because a lot of times the email will collect a name, and so I do insert and I go down to subscriber, and then I click on first name. And so that's going to personalize it. And notice it's in quotes. The quotes are basically just the tagline that allows the system to propagate and put that in there so that when that email goes out, it might say Bob, or it might say Tom or Dave, whoever their, whatever that person's name was is going to show up. Just wanted to reach out and give a big welcome to the team. Okay, you just opted in through my link, and again, this is up to you, where you can come and you can personalize this. And I just want to share, and so you just opted in through my link. Here it is again, in case case you forgot. And then, for example, I would put, whatever the link is. So HTTP and then, link.com. And what happens is nothing happened right there in the beginning. When I click the return, it didn't change. But if I highlight that and then I go over to my insert edit link, it'll pop up and the link is already there. And I can either turn it into, I can change the text and have the URL, or I can, modify and make it go to something else. So we'll just do the same thing just for the sake of the video. It doesn't really matter where it's going. I'm just showing you the process. And so you're going to set your link, and then we're going to click it. And now notice it becomes hyperlinked. And so when someone opens the email and they click on that link, you're going to get recognition of that in your statistics, showing how many people were opened and, how many emails were opened and how many were clicked. Looking forward this awesome venture with you. Let's do this. Dave Gardner. All right, so from here we can play around with a couple things. Like I said, I can go in, and I like to do this too, especially in the ones that I set up, because I have a little more time and I want to set them up and make sure that they all get it, especially they can become trained to know who I am. So I'm going to click on Edit, Insert Images, and there's a couple ways you can do this. If you know the HTML link, like the .jpeg link, you can do your source and you can add that in there. And I like to just upload, so you can upload from your computer. And so we're going to go into Pictures, and there's my picture. And notice this would be kind of large, but notice if we go through and I just change the number to 400. Let's see, my computer, 400. When I click out of the box, this will automatically populate a new number in direct proportion to what I changed it to. So notice how that changed, because you're going to keep the proportion set. Don't uncheck that box. And so when we click that picture comes in here. Now that looks kind of big relative to my message. So let's play around with the message a little bit. Let's make it pop out a little bit bigger. And so maybe make the text a little bit bigger. Okay, here it is again, in case you forgot. Let's maybe change that to italics. You just opted in through my link. We could make that bold. So there's a lot that we can do here. I can change this. Again, maybe I want the text color to be changed a little bit, and I want this to be, bright red. So let's do this. And that doesn't stick out as much, so maybe we'll turn it into a green. Might show up a little different. And notice it does change. And so there's a lot of power that you can do here, and that you can change and you can edit and manipulate with this. And so with the picture, if I click it again, I can actually edit the image, and I can resize it, I can change it, I can modify it and do a couple things to it. So if I resize it, it went back to the original. So let's do 300, and we'll apply that and save it. And notice it shrunk a little bit, so that's a little better. The other thing you can do, I can click on it, and once it's blue, I can also insert a link into it. And so HTTP, we'll do, again, link.com. And if you want, watch this. Come join me at link, something like that, whatever it is. And so when we click that, now when I hover over my face, notice it pops up. It says, come join me at link, at link. So you can add that into whatever you want. Okay, you can have that overlying text pop up, and that will show you, what is actually going to, which is a really cool feature and function, because a lot of people like to click on stuff. And so they might click on your image because it becomes a hyperlink. And so when you've had your message done and you're set, what you're going to do, if you scroll down, notice there is another option, because some email providers, notice we have the HTML message and we also have the text message. So if I just show you the code, the source code, this message that I just made is all this, junk. And we don't expect you to learn code, but some people that know code can copy code and be able to add that in there. So I'm going to cancel that. But some email providers like Gmail, Hotmail, AOL, Yahoo, they might block sites if it seems to be overly elaborate, so many colors, so many pictures, so many images. Number one, it takes more time and effort to upload that into their system. And so what you want to do, what I always do is I will click somewhere in my box and I will do Control A, that highlights everything. And And then I will do Control C to copy, or you can right click on your mouse and you can choose the copy function. And then when I go down to the box at the bottom, I do Control V, or I could have, right clicked and done paste. And so notice the extent of this is the whole message, but it doesn't have any imagery. It doesn't have, italics and bold and different colors and larger font. It's very plain and very simple. And so it's more likely to have a potential, especially if someone has a blocker, that they're gonna have a better chance of getting that email delivered to them. So I always fill in both. It claims it's optional, but I always fill in both just for kicks. And what we want to do at the very, very end, always save. And so what you need to do, because we are adding a follow-up, you're going to click add. And what that's going to do, that's going to bring us back to the original page that we started at with the follow-up messages. So notice now I have my first follow-up message in there. It's sent after 0 days. Okay, none have been sent because I don't have a list yet. I'm not building yet. But notice we can see how many sent, how many were open, what clicks were there, what the bounce rate was in the spam score. And then we can go through, I can go back and I can edit it by clicking this little icon that looks like a little font pen. I can add another message after it, or to it, and addition to it to create the follow-up. I can test it and send it to myself just to make sure it delivers. And then I can also delete it if I find that message isn't pulling right, or maybe it's getting more bounce rates and more spam scores. I could delete that because maybe it's not good enough. Now, the next thing, of course, is to go through and build another one. Now, I'm not saying you have to build 50 emails in one day, but you could build a couple in one day and then come back a couple days later and build some more. And at the same time, you should be doing some live broadcasts as well. When you do a live broadcast that's relatively generic, you could then come in and just copy the whole thing into the add follow-up. Now, I just mentioned that term generic, and I want to point that out. This is crucial for your follow-ups. Make sure your automated follow-ups are very, very generic. And so I didn't list anything in this message about a date or a holiday or a specific event, because if someone is talking and you're getting a message sent, from that person, and you're talking about, something that happened last night, but really it happened maybe a month, 2 months, or a year ago, the person thinks that's kind of questionable. Now, if you were to phrase it as something in the past, like, oh, I remember when, so-and-so was president, or, when such and such a team won the Super Bowl, or won the championship game. If you refer to things in the past, or, say, oh, I remember at one time when my kids did something, instead of, oh my God, last night my kid just did this. But in reality, then they're seeing you on social media and they see your kid, seems many years older, or is doing something totally different. So make sure when you do your add follow-ups and follow-ups, they're relatively generic as far as dates and timelines. When you do send broadcast, that's a message that's going to go out live right at the time to your list. And that's the perfect opportunity for you to actually go through and talk about your current successes, struggles, what's going on with life, what are you up to, what are you doing, what are you using to promote, and things like that. So we're going to go through, let's add just a couple more. I'm just going to run through quickly, not to spend as much time, because hopefully you understand the process. For every other message after the first message, we can leave this as 1, and that will make sure that every single day we get a message. So, just checking in. Let's see, checking in. Again, we're going to go down to, from insert fields, go to subscriber, and then the first name. Yesterday, you joined me, and I just want to see if you are a true action taker. Now, I actually I'm going to highlight this all. I did Control A, and I like to actually be able to see it myself a little easier. The font's a little smaller. Just it's easier for me to text as my eyes get a little weaker as I age. And I like to do that in the beginning just so I can see it. So again, you're going to do something, and I'm not going to go through, all the bells and whistles here, but just to show you that that's what you can really do with this. Play around with it, experiment, see things. And so, be sure to join us at, link.com. Or just click this instead. And I'll just show you another way to make this pop out. And so Link.com obviously looks like a link. But when I insert that, again, kind of like in the picture I showed you a minute ago, join us at link. And link, again, is just some fictitious thing. I mean, maybe there is a link.com. I don't know what it is. But notice how when I highlight it again, it does what I showed you a few minutes ago in the picture. But if we go or to just click this link instead, I can do the same thing here. Instead of being this link, what looks like an actual domain link, I can actually enter the link there. But instead, I'm going to see the text. And I could also put it here, join us right now before you lose out. And so when I click that one, notice it's highlighted. And when I go over it, now we have the join us right now before you lose out versus this one says, join us at link. And so if you really go and, you're a little more advanced and you're using your own tracking software, you can really go through and figure out, okay, did someone click on the first link or the second link? Are they more apt to click on a link that looks like a link or a link that looks like text and they're not really sure where it's going? So just keep that in mind. And so, again, maybe have some phrase. I like to end with let's do this. And that's up to you to come up with some phrase that works for you. And, again, maybe you want to have some consistency. So we're going to add the picture. We're going to upload it. And so, again, we can choose from the browser. And we did that. And I believe I changed it. I think I changed it to 300, fit a little bit better. Oops. And there we go. Now, the other thing, so let's say we have another picture. I want to show you that other option with pictures. And let's upload another image. So we're going to go to Facebook. Hopefully we're not going to see anything too crazy. All right, so here's this picture, nice sunset picture. Notice you can go through and we can open the image in a new tab. And as I open it in a new tab, I'm going to get a website address. And it's off the screen, but when you go into your browser at the very top of your website or web page, sorry, wrong slide there, going back and forth. And what we want is that link. And so if I take that source, that link, it's this very, very long link. If I press OK, notice it's very big, but that picture is now in my email. And so I just went from Facebook and took a picture of this nice sunset. And now I'm back over here. And I can do that. So all you need to do is go in and you can actually get the website link and there's your picture. So for example, this is a little too big. So I want to go in and edit it. Or, maybe I didn't want it. It was, a little too big, a little too not connected to what I was doing. I can just click next to it and delete it and we can go from there. So again, that's another option, just using the edit insert message. And again, I'm going to go through, I'm going to copy everything. So Control A and then Control C. Control A highlights it, Control C pastes it. And then I'm going to paste Control V at the very bottom. And I got this link. Now, one of the things I want to point out, if you do something like this, where it says be sure to join us at link.com or just click this instead, in the text version, you're going to want to modify that because this is not clickable when it's just text. It would be just this. So at that point, we can come down here and we can delete that part. And then it makes sense and it doesn't look like something's missing. So we're going to click add like we do at the end. Again, that's what saves it and it puts it in the system as our second message. So once this refreshes, we're going to see that we have two messages and the next one is coming after 1 day where the original one was coming just after 0. Again, we want to have our first message set to 0. We want to have our second and any other messages after that at least set to 1. Again, if you find and maybe you test and tweak, maybe you don't think you want to have someone getting an email every day and you only want them to hear from you every other day, or maybe keep it, mixed up a little bit. Maybe you have, your first is at 0 and then you have, 1, 1, 1, and then maybe you go 2, 1, and then, then 2, 2, 3, 1, so that maybe it looks like more natural and people are getting emails over a certain period of days. So we now have 2 messages in there. And so let's just do one more for the sake of just doing it. I'm going to do this one real quick. So third time's a charm. So again, you're going to insert, and you don't have to insert, but I like to insert it just to give them a greeting. It could be something like, holy crap, Dave, or holy crap, Bob. Okay. I'm going to Control A it to make it highlighted and then make it a little bigger so I can see it, but also it sends out bigger. Did you see the offer that just came out? this software. It's truly a no-brainer. And then we'll go through and maybe we'll click, oops, wrong image is what I want. I'm going to go into upload. We're going to browse for an image. And so the other day, we got our documents. I can go through, you can go through all of your documents all over. And so I'm going to go in and I'm going to find the document that I need. I just got to remember what my alphabet is, get my letters in order. And, so for example, here's our image that we want. We're going to upload it from our, from our computer. We've saved the image. And so depending on how big it is, maybe it takes a second. I have quite a few things open on my computer right now. You could only see what's going on up above. I got lots of tabs. Of course, I got my video software going as well, running this to create this video so I can edit and make it nice for you guys. And so once this goes, this is an issue more on my end. As you just saw, I was able to do a first, 2 or 3 video or pictures already. So I believe this is because of the image I'm trying to upload on my end. So we'll give it another couple seconds. If not, we'll cancel it. I'll pick a different one. But the whole point again being is that you can get all different images. And there we go. It just took a couple seconds of coaxing. I want to decrease that. We'll make it 400. Notice again, when you click out of the box, this will change the properties. And so that'll fit a little bit better. And I want this to be down at the bottom, not over at the side. So notice I just put my cursor after the question mark. And I'm going to click return, and that will kind of center it and make it a little bit better. And so once we have that in there, I can click that, and I want to send that, to the link. So again, we're using the example HTTP, semicolon / link.com. Get the deal of the century. And so we're going to click OK. And then notice when I highlight it or hover over it, get the deal of the century. So it's a no-brainer. All right, let's rock this. Let's do this, however you want to do it. And then if you put your own image, you can. If not, like I said, the more people get familiar with you, the more comfortable they're going to be, and the more apt they are going to work with you. So I'm going to copy and paste that. We're going to send it down, and boom. Notice I didn't do anything about it. I didn't change the number up at top. And so we are good to go. This will populate. We'll have 3 messages. And then from there, it's basically just wash, rinse, and repeat. And so I like to have multiple emails in my follow-up because I want people to continually hear from me. Now, I have had people that opted into free things that I've offered, and some people might buy right away. You get a small percentage that do that. But some people like to do their due diligence, and they like to hear about things and make sure that things are legit, and they might follow along for a couple weeks. And so I've had people join me after a couple weeks, and some people are kind of set in their ways and they don't think anything, and they want to make sure that they're seeing results. So maybe they come in months. I've had people come in up to 3 years later that I had on a list as a free lead, but I continued to follow up with them, not only in my automated messages that go through, but also my send broadcast or my live broadcast. Now, are there times where life happens, you're sick, things go on with family, you have sports, you have work, you have all these things and responsibilities that, yes, obviously we know there might be times where you're not going to be able to email your people. And that's where the benefit of the automated follow-ups come up. And so the more you can have in there, the better you're going to be. So if I create a send broadcast, which is a live broadcast, I will often copy it and I will tweak it and make it so that it doesn't sound dated. And so I mentioned that a few minutes ago. We want to make them, not be consistent with something that's in the present time. We want to make sure that it's very generic. And so you could go back and you can edit that email, and then you could just create another follow-up, and then you can copy that same post into your actual follow-up series so that later on, new people that come in will get that great message, especially if it's a product that's evergreen, that will last forever and is always available. Now, if it's, if you're talking about a brand new launch, or if you're talking about a brand new product, you want to be very careful. And again, make sure you change and edit the text that just talks about the product, because if that person opts into you a year down the road and you say, oh, this product just launched and yet it's been out for a year and has had, 3 different upgrades, then they might believe and think that you're not very, legitimate. Maybe they think that you're not very active and you're not alive, and you're just, you're not very personal, and you're just sending them old stuff. So again, that is the function of the add follow-up. You can add as many as you want. I have some with I believe over 100, maybe close to 200. So someone might be getting an email from me for 200 days in a row, and that's on top of my live broadcast. So make sure you take some massive action on your ad follow-up and personalize your stuff, and just go in there and test it out, because at the end what you can do is always delete it. And I'm going to delete these too, because I don't want my campaign to look like this. These are very generic emails. I want to put my own link in there that's coded to me and gets me some good results. So just to show you what you can do, you can go in there and delete it. It says, are you sure? Yep, I'm going to be okay. And what we're going to do, that one's going to be gone. It's going to populate or depopulate, I guess. And it's going to open up and refresh for me. And when we have this refresh in just a matter of seconds, it will say, just the 2. And so I want to go back and I'm going to edit another one here just to show you the other capabilities of what you can do. So let's say, things are changed and you decide you want to promote something else. You don't have to create a whole new series of emails. Let's say I want to go through, notice again, there's only 2 now. I can click the edit link, and what that'll do is bring me back. So let's say I want to change this, and I've changed, companies, or, I'm deciding I'm going to promote something else. And so I could just go through, I could highlight this and delete it. And I could say, okay, join us at http://mysite.com. And so something like that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to change it to my site. Now it already says it there for the text, but I want to make sure I add it in the URL as well. And so that's going to save. But then this is also different too. So I need to highlight that. And once I highlight that, I can click on this. And I can, again, go to mysite.com and change that, because I want to make sure that I update both the links. If you want to, you could have just deleted it. We could have unclicked the link. So if I highlight, notice there's this remove link. So notice that is a link right now. If you decide you don't want it there, you can just highlight it and I can click remove link. And now there's no link there. But if I, again, want to highlight it, I can click the icon and I can paste my site in there. And so now it has that option. And so I would want to do the same thing down at the bottom. Make sure you check your messages down here, because if someone is getting the generic messages, you want to make sure you change that text to the other site as well. So that's just a quick way you can go in and edit. You can change pictures and you can do whatever you want to your message again. But as always, save, save, save. We want to click that edit button. And what it'll do, it often will just bring us back to the message again after you've edited it, in case you need to do anything else. Maybe you want to test it at, sending every 2 days, or maybe, maybe you were sending them every 2 days and now you want to bring them back to every 1 day. And so what happens is this will bring it back, and I know it's done and refresh when that pop-up comes in, and also the message kind of shifts down. So notice my message shifted down, and at the very top, I think it's off the screen, but it says successfully updated. And so what we need to do then, or what we can do then, is we can go back and click the follow-up button, and that'll just bring us back to our list. And again, we have a couple different options. Again, if you want to add something, let's say this is not the order I want to do, I can actually check. If you look over here where the hand is, notice there's like those buttons that show up. If I want, I can actually take this and drag it, and I can change the order in which those messages come out, which is a really cool function. If you decide that, maybe there's a series of 7 to 10 emails you have, and you're realizing that people are clicking like crazy on like message number 8. And, if they're all generic, if they're not specific, you could go in and you could actually just say, hey, I want to move and I want to test and I want to check message number 8 out, but I want to bring it up, after 3 days. I want to have a faster sale. And so you can quickly just grab that and move it up. But again, just do your due diligence, go through, edit, and make sure that your email doesn't, refer to things in those previous messages that they should have gotten had you moved it to an earlier email. So really, really powerful. Just play around with it and take some serious action. Put your voice into it. Let the people get to know you. Again, this has been Dave Gardner. Thank you for watching along with this training video. Hopefully you found some immense value. If you have any questions or comments, you can always join us and hit us up in the Facebook group or support tab up top. We really want to hear about your successes with these tools and how you're actually implementing them into your niche, because we want to help the family out. So as I always say, you get out of it what you put into it. And the big question that I always have for you is, with all these awesome tools that you have, what will you create to make your legacy? And what will you create to help others so that you can make a difference in the world today?